Hello and welcome to In Deep. I'm Lily and I'll be hosting today's stream. In Deep is where we discover the talent, inspiration, and challenges behind film, TV, games, and advertising. We hope everyone's safe and well. Today we welcome cinematographer Nathalie to the stream. But before I introduce her, I'd like to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. Hi to Nick, Ed, Hannah Jell, Sarah Antilla, I hope I'm saying that right. Everybody else, say hi. Please feel free to ask any questions anytime. We'll try to get through all of them. No questions are too obvious or silly. And also, every Friday, which is very important because that's tomorrow, we'll be giving away a prize to the best chat contributor, which is sponsored by our friends at 5 Points Brewing. So get stuck into that. Could be best question, surprise us. While some of Nathalie's details are below, I'm going to quickly point you to where you can find her. And with that, I'd like to introduce our special guest, Nathalie. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, yeah. Thank you for having me again. Always a
That's
pleasure.
all right. What have you been up to since? So the last time we spoke to you was January this year, which is mad.
Yeah, at your live event.
Our live events, yes, which are very different to and not set in our houses. But what have you been up to since January?
Mostly pajama based, to be honest, like during lockdown. It's been good. I mean, there have definitely been some moments where I've been like, I've had some sort of dark periods where it was like a lot of really great things were happening at once. So obviously in January I did your talk, and then I did this thing with the BSC Expo and Primetime and the British Blacklist, which was called the Primetime Pledge. And that was basically pledging to mentor and bring on set people who want to be in the film industry who don't necessarily have access otherwise.
Amazing. Yeah.
Then I got my agent, then I graduated from an FTS, and I had my graduation show, and everyone was really loving our film, and everything was starting to kind of kick off, and then everything kicked off, you know.
Yes.
Then everything died.
Exactly.
So yeah, there have been some moments where I've had like, you know, I've had a lot of reflection, which I'm happy to talk about today as well, about some of the kind of things that have happened.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of going through a lot of self-analysis at the moment. But I guess maybe we should start off talking about how you got started on your journey to be a cinematographer. How did you get into that?
So I've always, since I was a kid, I've always had, and I went there and I studied cinematography, well, filmmaking, but with an emphasis on cinematography. And then when I left, I just sent myself out in the world. I tried to do as much as I could. I tried to meet as many people as I could. And I mean, also happy to talk in more detail about like the literal step-to-step process, because that's a very difficult thing to navigate when you're on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Because I guess if maybe you don't know people already who are doing that, or have like a slightly smoother gateway in. I mean, how does some?
Yeah, it was very difficult. So I've actually attended 2 film schools, which I'm often embarrassed to say that in a way, because even though that's my own path and that's the path that was right for me, it does feel like, you know, there's this kind of old school mentality of like, no, you should start at the ground and work your way up and stuff. And so I've always been a bit self-conscious of myself that I didn't start off as a trainee or as working my way up that way. So I went to education for that, was fairly straightforward, to be a DOP. So after 1 year at the London Film School, you're allowed to assist on other projects. You're allowed to like Spark or AC on and stuff like that. So I made sure to get on as many of those as I could. And I think when I left, I think I'd done something like 25 films in that 2 years that I'd been a part of the crew. And so then when I left the London Film School, there are a bunch of websites that I think they still exist actually as well. There's Mandy.com, which was Film and TV Pro at the time. And there was shootingpeople.org, I think. So I basically made myself a profile on both of those. I included a short film that I had shot as DOP at the school that I was proud of. That became my kind of showreel, as it were. And I just applied for anything and everything that I could, basically. I didn't pay attention to whether or not I liked the project or who the project was directed by, anything. I just wanted to be on set. And so I kind of worked myself to the bone doing that over and over again. And my first sort of year and a half after leaving film school, I was DOPing, gaffering, sparking, ACing, anything. And then after about, I don't know, I'd say like early to middle of 2017, my demands to DOP started to take over a lot more. And it sort of became obvious to me that I should devote my attentions more that way. So I was continuing to just apply, but only for DOP work, reaching out to a few friends I knew a few people from film school, a few people that I'd met along the way, and just trying to like hawk my services to them as much as possible. And then I was doing this for a while, and I started to get a bit, I think that feeling of like I hadn't traineed had always stuck with me, because I always wanted to watch like the big great DOPs working and watch them work on huge sets, you know, and I didn't get that opportunity. So I thought I need to kind of stop now, and I need to either apply to the National Film and Television School for the cinematography course, because they do get those big great DOPs coming in and training you and showing you how they work, or I need to like seriously ramp up this attempt to trainee. And luckily I got into the NFTS, so then I didn't have to try and trainee. And the NFTS really, it changed the way I view cinematography in a way. And I'll talk more about that later, I suppose, because that feeds into some of the epiphanies I've had while I've been in lockdown. But yeah, it changed the way I work. It changed my approach to visuals. It changed my approach to story. And then I graduated, hung out with you guys in January, and now we're here. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like it was definitely worth reevaluating and taking that step.
Yeah, and because it had taken so long and so much work to build up a network, I actually I continued working while I was at NFTS, which was really hard because it was basically full-time education and then as full-time as possible DOPing. And because I'm broke as shit, I also got a part-time job on the weekends at this like boutique leather handbag shop. So I was pretty busy for 2 years, but I wanted to keep my network, and I wanted to put into practice the stuff I was learning. I found that even the first job I did was maybe a month or 6 weeks into my NFTS course. And even just 6 weeks in, my approach is completely different. And it was amazing.
Yeah, because I guess that's like what you were saying the other day about how you want to still have the opportunity to kind of try out new things that you've seen by having a number of projects that just keep coming in. So you're like constantly kind of trying new stuff, challenging yourself. And I feel like everybody has a different approach, don't they? Because some people might just want to kind of achieve one thing and have like one voice. But do you think you have a particular style, or is there anything you haven't tried yet that you really want to get stuck into? Because now you've done like an animation, loads of live action. What do you,
I mean,
next?
It's something that's one of the things that I was during lockdown. I was saying to you was I was basically looking over all my filmography and looking at my website and thinking, what message is this sending to potential employees? Because there's so much, like such a diverse portfolio of work there. And it was something that I thought, like during this lockdown, we've had loads of Zoom chats with other DOPs and have watched their work, and they all seem to have quite a unified thread, I suppose, running through it. And so I thought, well, shit, I should have this unified thread. Like, why have I got all these random projects next to each other? But what has been good about that is that I've learned so much, and I've learned to adapt myself so much that now it's like on set, it's not invincible because I still have so much to learn, but it does almost feel like I can handle almost anything that's thrown at me. I think one thing that I'd like to do more of is I really love doing period films. And I don't mean like Jane Austen kind of period where it's like buffles and rustles. Like, I just mean like this period film I shot that's based in 1985. I've got another film that's come through during lockdown that hopefully we'll be shooting soon that's set in the 50s. And I just love that those textures and those I don't know, the costume design is always amazing, and the production design has to be on point because you can't just get away with like IKEA furniture or whatever. So that's one thing I really want to try. But I think one thing as well that I've realized about one's taste is, and especially my taste is so varied. Like I've got, if I look at sort of, I don't know, Pinterest board or like Instagram saved posts or whatever from other people, they all look so different. There's like, the multicolored smoky backlight stuff, and there's the like flat lighting wide frame stuff, and there's the like pastel colored stuff, and everything's so different. So it's almost like I can't really say what it is. It's a kind of gut instinct, like a I don't know, it's just a feeling of like when a script really resonates with me, it's usually because it's either about like an insular character who's really inhabiting their mind and maybe struggling to kind of talk through what's going on inside, or it's something totally absurd and strange. Like I watched this short film the other day called Stilts, which is bonkers. I don't know if anyone who's here has seen it. It sets up this crazy world where everyone just wears stilts, and that's just what they do. And then this one kid is like desperate to get his stilts cut off because he wants to escape through a door that's really short and go to the outside world. And just that like insane world that they created, I just find that so fascinating.
It's like a really deep metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah,
like magical realism.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love all that stuff, and I just I'd say one of the things I've noticed is that there's lots of things that I do like, but there's not a lot of things that I don't like. So the things I don't like, there are fewer of them, if that makes sense.
But you know what they are.
But I know what they are. I can feel what they are. Usually, if it's a script with like a ton of dialogue, like I'm probably not gonna love it. But I'm open, so I'll read it, check it out.
I guess do you think you're kind of more drawn to like not silent film, but more kind of emotionally led, like the images and the image and the atmosphere is like speaking for the characters.
Yeah, definitely. Like, more introspective and I don't know. I like people that play with metaphor and abstraction, and I mean I think it's evident in the kind of photography I like as well. It's like I don't like the kind of straight on normally composed thing. I like the thing that has like high contrast in the lighting or color contrast or like a weird composition or something like that. Like I don't just like the kind of normal straightforward like shot reverse shot and so directors who are open to being innovative and abstract and weird, I'm all for that.
Cool. I'm just going to check questions. Oh, cool. Tom Samuel asks, in the 2 years of working in 25 different films, did you work on the side to get some more money, or was there no time? So I guess that was the handbag scenario.
Well, so that was one thing that I often advise people is like obviously loads of people are going to have different opinions on this, but for me it was really important to do a job that paid me money that was boring as hell. So I did an admin job for Newham Council. They were very nice people, and it was a good job, but it was absolutely not what I want to do with my life. And it was 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And what comes with office job an office job is you get annual leave. You typically get like 25 to 30 days annual leave per year, and you get to call in sick, and you get to sometimes work from home. I was a bit cheeky, but I was basically working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday in this office, and then on the weekends I would be going and shooting. And for the first like year and a half, I wasn't paid a penny for any of my shoots, but that didn't matter because I was getting money elsewhere from my office job. So what that meant was that I didn't have to shoot wedding videos or do any kind of videography, vlogging kind of thing. I could just concentrate on learning as much as possible. So
do you think, just on that note, do you think there was any particular job that kind of started the snowballing of all the cinematography work coming in that meant you could stop the side job and moonlighting?
Yes. Yes, there was. And the way it happened was totally by chance. So the job in question was they were both on the same day. There were 2 Dizzy Rascal music videos. And I got that job because that was in 2017 in like April or something, or May, that we shot it. And I got that job because 9 years prior, I'd just finished university, just found out what cinematography was, and was desperate to do any kind of work in the industry whatsoever. So I was working at film festivals, I was handing out bottles of water, I was handing out flyers. I was temping on like media office reception desks, doing anything I could. And it was at one point when I was temping on this media desk, I met this guy. We just hit it off. We were just such good friends, like nothing romantic, but we were just such tight friends. And literally just over that like week or 2 weeks or whatever I was there, we just became like besties. And he wanted to be a director one day. I wanted to be a DOP one day. I talked to him about what cinematography was. He didn't know. And this was like 2008. And then fast forward 8 years, fast forward like 6 years, I guess. I came home from Japan, back to London. I'm going to do this film thing. I'm going to start, because I've been living there for 4 years as an English teacher. My friend says to me, "Don't bother going to film school, come work for me." And I was like, I just don't feel comfortable. I'm just going to go. I'm going to get like a thorough grounding in what all this is. And then I'll come back to you. So finished film school. I got back to him, and he put me up. His mate was directing a fashion promo called Cavemt. The label was Cavemt. And there was a guy on set called Ben Drury, and Ben was something like the creative director or art director, I don't know, something like that, some sort of behind the scenes thing. And the Cavemt shoot was a green screen shoot. And Ben really liked the way that I was working with the green screen, with the director, with the actors. He really liked the lighting. He loved the final product. And he's known Dizzy for years and years and years. And I think he designed Dizzy's album cover or something like that. So
cool.
Dizzy needed these visuals to go behind him for his live performances. They were never meant to be official music videos at all. And we knew that they were going to be this kind of, I mean, I don't know if they're up on screen now. I think they are. It's kind of weird, glitchy, kind of VFX-y sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And so basically Ben asked me to shoot this Dizzy Rascal music video. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is mad. And what I thought was going to happen did not happen. I thought, okay, this is going to be my big break. And what I thought that meant was, at that time, the ratio of like, I was contacting directors, like cold calling them sort of thing, versus them cold calling me was like 99.9% me contacting and like 0.1% them, whatever. I thought that when Dizzy was released, that ratio would hugely shift, that it would go from like, I'd wake up the next morning and my inbox would be flooded and it'd be like, I thought that's how it worked, because that's how it works for actors. I thought that's how it worked for DOPs as well. And it's not at all. So what actually happened was, once this video was released, there was a lot more sort of underlying trust that I could execute something, if that makes sense. So a few months after it was released, the same director from the Cavemt thing, I worked with him on an ASOS Nike like 2-day job, and basically like no one said no, she can't shoot it because she doesn't have the experience or whatever. And that was great. And then a few months after that, I was up for a music video through Pulse Films, and it was pretty big deal. And again, no one said no. And so it was that kind of like, you get one project that kind of boosts your profile like a little bit, and then things start, but it's all incremental. Like there was never like a big surge of like sudden popularity or anything like that. I don't know if that happens. I mean, it happens to a few people, but
I think that's really interesting though, because I guess everybody has such a different path.
Yeah.
Just checking for more questions. It's super hard to get a good network and get jobs. This is from Tom Samuel. Mm-hmm. I'm struggling as well at the moment. It would be great to hear some tips.
Yeah, sure. What worked for me? I went to a few short film nights, and they were always really nerve-wracking for me, because when I was going to these short film nights, it was like, "Hi, I'm Nathalie. Wait, what am I?" And I was like, I'm not a DOP yet, and I'm not like, you know, an AC in the sense that I'm ACing like Star Wars, right? So I felt unsure introducing myself as like, what am I? Because I also spark and gaffer, and then I also DOP, and so I started introducing myself as an aspiring DOP, which is the worst thing you can do, because people then will never see you as a DOP. They'll always see you as like the DOP in waiting. You're always going to be the plan B, not the plan A. So I did that. Met a few people on there, not that many though, but a few. And I think what actually got me the most network-wise, unfortunately, it wasn't the London Film School, because a lot of my classmates were international. So when the school ended, they just kind of went home. So then I was like stuck there. There were a couple of people from my film school, but not that many that I stayed in touch with. The biggest thing was probably making a profile on mandy.com and shooting people and just blasting emails at people. And like there are a bunch of Facebook filmmaking online kind of groups as well. So joining all of them and just blasting, like everyone who's looking for a DOP, I was like, "Hello, I'm Nathalie. This is my stuff. This is my showreel." And at the very beginning, I didn't have a showreel. I just had that one film that I'd shot at the London Film School that I was decently proud of. And so I would basically lie to everyone. I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm just waiting for more footage to come back from editors. But this is the last like completed thing I've done. I've done a bunch of other shorts, which I obviously hadn't. But I knew I could. So I was
That's very smart though, because I'd believe that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, who's going to check up? Yeah.
You're so sought after.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and basically did that a few times and managed to, you know, slime my way into a couple of short films and a couple of little promo things. And then with that material so I finished London Film School in like January 2016. And by March 2017, I had a decent enough reel of, I mean, if I look back at it now, it's shit, but I had a decent enough reel that was like, okay, it shows a bit of variety, it's like 2 minutes long. It shows that I've done a number of projects, and basically this is my insurance document towards you that you can trust me that I'm not going to completely fuck up your film. I'm not going to show up on set and just be an idiot. You know, like I have a basic understanding of what I'm doing, and I want to learn more. So that was, I was a massive fucking liar. That's how I, I got here through sheer dishonesty.
I think that'll help though, because that is a true hustler move.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm just going to check for another question. Charles Maddox asks, if you could choose any director to work with, who would it be and why?
I have one director in mind. There are lots of directors I really want to work with. So I just want to preface it by saying, when I mention this director's name, that is not to say that this is the only director I want to work with. So please hire me, everyone. The director I really would love to work with, his name is Salomon Ligthelm. He's a South African director. I think he's now based in New York. And the reason I'd really love to work with him is because he's just really daring and brave, and he loves shooting on film, which I also love shooting on. And he's just got these bonkers ideas, and he's got such amazing references. I was watching an IG live with him, and he had this, like, I'm really interested in Soviet propaganda and propaganda art, and like, I mean, I haven't put it on my wall yet because it's a bit of a mistake. But I went to North Korea a few years ago, and I bought this giant North Korea propaganda poster that I'm just trying to find the right place where it will intimidate enough people in the house.
Living room.
Yeah, definitely. So exactly, just above the toilet maybe. So yeah, like he has all these brilliant references from Soviet photographers that kind of go into like Soviet zones and these kind of big empty derelict houses, and I just love it. I just love the texture in his work. And there's another director who I'm actually doing an IG live with today at 7 p.m. hopefully. His name's Dumas Haddad. I really love his work as well. So yeah, there's a bunch of people. There's a woman called Matilda Finn. I like the stuff she does. Yeah, so many. I discover new people every day. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's any more. Oh my God, there's loads. Dana Kinski, asks, hi, recently having graduated, how did you have projects that look so amazing, like high budget productions? It's incredible. What kind of budgets have you been playing with? And how did you cold call people, literally, since it's probably not actually finding their number and calling?
Yeah.
You can cold call.
I
cold email.
It was all cold email. I never.
DM sliding is the new way of doing
I'm far too scared to phone anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely have not. I don't even phone my own boyfriend, so I'm never going to call like a director out of the blue. Okay, so the first question was about the budgets. So thank you for saying that you think my work looks high budget. It's not. Generally, so music video budgets, they started off at like £100, like literally nothing. My friend Matt had a black magic camera, so I would like traipse to go meet Matt, nick his camera, go to the other side of London, borrow some lights of someone. I begged Ula, who was at Panelux at the time, who's now at Direct Digital, to give me any offcuts of gels. So I was just like wheeling and dealing like Del Boy all over London. So those budgets were really shit. And then the budget started to become a bit better. So nowadays, my music video budgets tend to be anywhere between 7,000 and 25,000, which you think 25,000 is a lot. It actually doesn't go very far, because at that level, everything has to scale up now. So the catering has to scale up. The amount of people on set needs to scale up. The location's in the middle of nowhere, so you need to organize transport to get there. So yeah, that's been annoying. Yeah, the budgets don't always match what you need, and often treatments don't match what the budget is, which can be really difficult to figure out as a DOP of how you're gonna make this work, basically.
Yeah.
So okay, how did I make things look higher budget? Was by starting with nothing. So, for example, if you need to black out a room, I would get tinfoil and wet the window and put tinfoil on it, and then put a curtain over that, and that would now be a blacked out room. Or if I had like a really shitty LED light that cost £2.50, I would skirt it with bin bags. Please don't do this on hot lights, obviously, but I would skirt it with bin bags, and then try and control the light from spilling everywhere using bin bags. And I had like maybe 3 pieces of off-cut black wrap, or I don't know, like just literally random shit that I could find. Like what's another thing I used to do? Oh, like a vase like this. I don't know if you can see this. I can't see myself. I'd put that in front of the lens, and then it would kind of like blur it like that. Or you know, just do weird shit like
That's
having to be inventive and having to work for like 2 years with no budget means that when you do get a budget, you're a bit more savvy with what you can do. And because you've kind of run the gamut of the shitty rig, like glossary, you can just, and you've got better crew and stuff. So
was that what you were saying about the Louis Vuitton campaigns that you did?
No, not Louis Vuitton. That was actually an incredibly high budget, but the producer would never tell me, but I kept guessing, and he'd go higher, higher, higher. I think at one point I guessed like, okay, 500,000. He's like higher, higher, higher. But we were splitting between us and the photography unit. So the photography unit got,
of course, because it's a fashion campaign.
So the photography unit got basically all the budget. At first, they were saying to me, okay, so we're going to be shooting in Sicily. So obviously there's a lot of natural light. And we're just going to be like grabbing it. It's almost like behind the scenes videography, but not behind the scenes videography, but that kind of mentality towards it. So, you know, the model will just be kind of posing like that against the wall, and you'll just get a few different angles of the products, and then, you know, you move on. So it's like, okay, well, in that case, I probably don't need that much equipment, but I would still like to have X, Y, and Z. And they were like, no, we just don't have the budget for it. We don't have the budget for it. And they kept trying to reassure me, like, we're literally going to be outside in the daytime the entire time. You don't need lighting. We're going to be running and gunning. You know, there's not going to be time to set up stuff. You know, you're just going to be on the move. So I was like, fine, whatever. Like, I trust you. That was dumb. So I got to Sicily, and like the first day they were like, we had this big production meeting. It was all very official. And everyone was like, right, so these are the locations we're going to recce tomorrow. So there's this interior, very dark bingo hall. And I was like, what? And then they were like, yeah, there's this hot dog stand that we're going to shoot at night. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, you guys are killing me. So the photography unit had 2 massive trucks full of lights. They had 5 or 6 lighting technicians. And I had me, and I had to beg for days to have 2 ACs. So eventually the photographers, they were very lovely people, and they were totally reasonable. And they were like, we cannot believe that they have just shafted you like this. So please, if we're not using a light, if we're not using, you know, you can have 2 technicians with you at all times, unless we're doing something very heavy and intense. And any lights we're not using, please take them. So luckily, because I mean, as you saw in the videos that played, there was like a snooker hall, there was a fucking gym. It was like, like, how am I going to do that? So
that's so good that they lent you lights.
Definitely. What was the other question really that they asked?
How do you cold call people?
Oh,
if it's not a phone number.
Yeah, it would be emails, and because there are a bunch of Facebook groups that have like filmmaking network and stuff. Sometimes they're looking for a DOP. Sometimes they're looking for something totally different. So there was a project I did last January called a short film called The Janitor of Lunacy. I did that with a director called Umi Ishihara. She's actually the director who took me to Louis Vuitton as well.
Cool.
So she was posting on Facebook that she was looking for a producer, actually. And I probably wouldn't normally do this because it's not super professional, I suppose, or it can be annoying if you're posting for one thing and then a bunch of other people are contacting you. But I just took a chance because I saw her work and stuff, and I took a chance and I thought, I'm just going to email her and just see if she hasn't got a DOP. And if she doesn't, then great. And if she does, then I'll get in touch with her in the future. So I contacted her and she didn't have a DOP. So she made me the DOP. So that was great. But yeah, a lot of the time it was postings on these job sites like Mandy and Film and TV Pro and Mandy and Shooting People. And it would be the director saying, we're looking for a DOP, we're looking for an AC, we're looking for whatever. And I would look at their work and I would contact them. And I would also go on promo news and watch music videos and then contact those directors. And
that's a useful one because it's free. Yeah. So anybody can get access.
I got ignored so many fucking times. I can't tell you. I probably got ignored more, like 10 times more than I got, even more, 15, 20 times more than I got an email back. But yeah, it's worth doing, because especially when your profile is really low, it can be difficult to raise that profile to get like from zero visibility to some visibility. It's impossible. And so essentially these directors have never heard of you. So why would they employ you? Why would they hire you? You need to make them hear of you in some way or another. Also Instagram is a really great resource. So I was watching loads of people's stuff on there, contacting them. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Got a question from Toby JT87. We all started somewhere. What's your normal approach to a grade or working relationship with the colorist and director in the grade?
Okay. What's happened more often than not is I follow up with a producer or a director and say, hey, when's the grade? Can you let me know and I'll go? And they'll go, oh yeah, we did it last week. Here's the project. And I'll be like, no,
thanks.
I wanted to be there. That doesn't happen that often. It was happening a lot recently. A lot of the time as well, because I've been keeping myself very busy, a lot of the time I'm not actually available for a grade, which can suck. So ideally I'll be there for the grade and I'll, how do I do it? I haven't graded in ages now, Jesus. Okay, so usually like it starts off with the treatment. So the treatment will have some sample images from the director of like what their vision is for the project. That then gives me something to piggyback off of, and then I bring in my own references. And then pretty soon, Toby's saying that wouldn't happen at Cheat. Good. Thank you. I love Cheat. They're fantastic. You should all go for Cheat. So yeah, the references then inspire me to bring more references to the project. And then pretty soon we find that we're entering a certain color palette or a certain contrast ratio or something like that. And then of course, on the day itself, the way things are shot, I don't always have time or budget, unfortunately, to set up any lookup tables, which is like a sort of preset that you can put through the monitor. I don't always get the luxury to work with a DIT or a colorist beforehand to set a look. So that is shit, because I'd love to do that. But these things, they move so quickly, the budgets are so low that it's sometimes you're just like running and gunning. The way I like to work with a colorist is they are the expert on color. I have my own idea of how I want it to look, but they're the experts. So I always want them to do a first pass first and just show me what they think, because they'll have our references, they'll have our treatment. They're not stupid. They can see the footage that we shot, that we want certain things to be dark or bright. And so I like to let them have a crack at it first. And then after that, I like to just kind of go in and like refine and tweak and make very subtle adjustments. But I don't think I've ever gone into a suite and gone, what have you done? What is this trash? Like it's usually they're usually on the ball. And the good colorists as well, including Cheat, always ask me for references. Another girl, she used to work at Cheat actually, Caroline Moran, she's now at Wash, always asks me for references, always asks me, what were you thinking? And like, how did you like this scene? What were you thinking there? And so they're not going in totally blind. Ideally, I would be there on the day, but a lot of the time I'm receiving stills on my phone while I'm on set for something else and having to kind of grade like this and then get back to the image, and I'm shooting and then back to this. So yeah, it depends. And I've never made my own on-set LUTs because I have no fucking idea how to. So please make me some, Toby.
I'm sure he will. Luke Harmer asks, would love to hear views on transitioning from one area of work to another. Currently working within corp pieces, but would love to enter commercial and marketing jobs. I guess another question about networking through an FTS.
Okay.
The transition.
To transition into another, it's hard, like you basically have to get someone to trust you without any proof that you can deliver because you've never done it before. That is very, very, very hard to do. One thing you could do is, especially for commercials are really easy you can do what's called a spec commercial, where I don't know if the person asking is more interested in the cinematography aspect or the directing aspect, but you can shoot it yourself, or you can get a friend to sort of help you with the directing or help you with the cinematography if you want to be the director. And you can just shoot a spec commercial. So it can be like for Nike or something, you know, it's easy enough. You've seen a lot of Nike commercials. You have to feature the shoe at some point. You have to make the shoe look really cool. But then you also just have to come up with like an interesting idea and just make it yourself. If you do enough spec commercials, you can share them on Instagram, share them on your website, and people will start to see, and then people might start to hire you. The difficult thing with commercials especially is because there's so much money that goes into it, and there's so much red tape that goes into it as well. Like, basically, once you deliver a storyboard to the client, you kind of have to shoot that. You know, you can also on the side shoot little bits and bobs and like, oh, that's a cool shadow, let's just grab that or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's still always room for improvisation, but you have to deliver the storyboard. And so the method of working is very different. For music videos, if you want to transition into that, just do what Salomon just emails bands and goes, hey, I really like this track. Can you, I'm just going to do this video for you and I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to hope that you like it. And always, of course, they do. But reach out to people and just be like, hey, like, you guys don't have many music videos under your belt. I'd love to do one with you. We can do it really low budget. My friend has a camera. And just try and think of like some simple ideas, like simple but effective. So not like sat on a white living room couch, because that's boring. But you can do something different with that, with like different lighting or day to night transitions or something like that. So it's just a way of showcasing your creativity. I don't know if that answered the question. Please let me know if it did. Please read.
Got a question from Barbie Lung. What were the key ingredients that you feel led you to WPA, your agent? Conventional wisdom is that you can't go looking for representation. You can't go looking for representation when the time is right, they come to you. Yeah. But from one hustle to another, is there a more proactive path?
She is totally right in that sense that, okay, so there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is you sit there and you wait and you look pretty and you wait for someone to come and ask you to dance, right? So you wait for the agent to come to you. The other school of thought is you go shopping yourself around and you go to like this agent, that agent, you meet a bunch of people and you're proactive about it. Okay, what's the difference between the two? When they come to you, that's because they know that they can sell you in a sense. So when you join with an agency, the agent needs to feel, and the agency needs to feel that you are a brand that they can deliver, if that makes sense. So how do I explain this? You need to already be kind of doing the kind of stuff that would get you attention. And if you're getting attention, then you're also getting attention from agents. I don't know if I'm confusing myself here or anyone else.
No, I think that's
okay. So
clever.
If you go shopping around different agencies, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that is a perfectly valid way to get an agent. But the other side of it is, well, why haven't they come to you yet? They probably haven't come to you yet because they don't feel that they can sell you. And when I signed with WPA, they had been kind of like aware of me, let's say, for a year and a half. So a few of the agents started following me on Instagram, liking the odd post. And that to me was like a kind of background guide to, hi, Natalie, we know you exist. We're just monitoring your work. Keep going, sort of thing. It was like a year and a half later that and actually probably 6 months later, I met up with them for a coffee. I was introduced by a mutual friend. I mentioned to her, it was around that time I was starting to get a load of jobs coming in at once. And so it was like the diary management of it was starting to take up so much of my time. And the other thing was that I was finding it hard to distinguish which job I should take and which job I should not take. You know, is this director on the up? Is this director old news? Like, is this budget really, really low, but actually it's going to further my career because it'll allow me to be creative with the visuals? You know, there was all these kind of questions that I had that I didn't know about. And I didn't know how to turn down a job that I didn't like without offending someone. And there's all this politics in my head about it. And it got to a point where I was now also starting to negotiate my own rates. And that can be really, really hard, because when you're starting out, or even if you're a few years down the line, but you still have the I'm starting out mentality, which I did, it's very easy to undersell yourself. And you don't want to say to someone, yeah, my day rate is £1,500 a day. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? All you've done is one short film for your mate. How are you £1,500 a day? So it can be hard to kind of price yourself. And I think I was saying to you the other day that I kind of wish there was like a DOP like NASDAQ or something, where you knew where you were at any stage in your career. Like you knew if you were trending or if you were on the down and like everyone hates you or whatever. So it started to be that my diary management was starting to really fuck with my head. It was taking up so much email space, mental space. And also having to set my own rates was starting to become a real problem, because I was working for bigger brands and stuff, but they were like, yeah, we have a really small budget, but we really love your work. And it was like, are they taking advantage of me or are they telling the truth? And so I started to feel like I needed an agent. And for a really long time, I wanted an agent, because having an agent legitimizes you. It gives you a bit of clout. It gives you a bit of like, you know, I'm not just some chancer who's going to show up on your set. Like, I'm legit. And then it switched over from wanting one to needing one. So I spoke to my friend. She introduced us. We went for a coffee. And at that time, I was really busy. I was setting up to shoot my graduation film for NFTS. I had a bunch of other projects in the pipeline. So they could see like, okay, she's busy. Like, let's just let her do her thing, and we'll kind of check in with her every now and again. They gave me a few tips and pointers about how to kind of rebrand certain things, or things I should maybe take off my website, things I should put on, stuff like that. And so I got back in touch with them a few months later, and I was like, hey, I've made these changes to my website. I've done my graduation film. This is what I've got coming up, blah, blah, blah. This is how I've been. How are you guys? They were insanely busy. This was like last summer, where everyone was shooting for some reason. They were super busy, and they were like, look, we're going to be at Camerimage in Poland in November, which, by the way, everyone should go to if you want to be a DOP. So we're going to be at Camerimage. We'll see you there. And I saw them there. They were at all the parties. We had lots of chats. It was really fun. And around this time, in between this time, I'd also been contacted by 2 other agencies. And I met with them for a coffee. And they're all really nice people. And each of these 3 agencies were really great agencies. And I was like in a fucking world of pain. I was like, did WPA want me anymore? Like, it's been so long since I met with them, and they've probably forgotten about me, and they've probably got someone else that's more important or interesting on their roster now that they are concerned with. And I was just like, they were always kind of my first choice. But I didn't know what to do, because I didn't know, like, because also they're a big agency, and lots of people were saying to me, oh, if you go with a big agency, they're going to forget about you. You're going to be left in the dust. You should go with a more boutique one. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I went with my gut, and my gut told me, go with WPA, because you get on really well with them as people. You really like the work they produce. You really respect the DOPs on their roster. And they seem to believe in you. They seem to care about you as a person. So, and everyone I met with seemed to, but it's just like a gut feeling thing that it was difficult, but I'm glad I made that decision. And I haven't regretted it. And since I signed with them, it was only early February. They've checked in with me so much. Like, obviously before lockdown, they were calling me like once or twice a week, offering me jobs, helping me with my rate. Just amazing. They're amazing.
So good. I've got
Sorry if I talk too much, by the way. You know, I did warn you. I did warn you.
You don't. Stop it.
You knew what you were getting into.
I did. We've got a few questions which will kind of swerve back about NFTS.
Yeah, sure.
But then there's also, I'm just going to quickly do one from Tom Samuel, which was, how did you find your day rate when you started?
The very first, okay, so I've been shooting freelance since 2016. So in year 2016, I basically didn't earn a single penny. And anything I did earn was them saying to me, we have blah, 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 £200 for you. We have £75 for you. We have £500 for you. It really did vary that much. There was one project I got 450, another project I got 75, other projects I got 0. Year 2, 2017. So I spoke with another DOP who was a few years ahead of me in their career about where I should set my rate for the Dizzy Rascal video. Because it wasn't an official music video at that time, and then it became one. And because I admittedly just didn't have enough experience to kind of price myself really high, I set my rate there at 500 for the day. And they really got their money's worth because we actually shot 3 videos in the end, but the third one didn't have enough footage. So we just ended up with 2. So they got a good deal there, definitely. But then, yeah, year 2, 2017, I was still very much led by their budgets. And I suppose I was lucky in that a lot of the directors I worked with didn't take the piss, and they themselves didn't want to work for a job where they weren't really getting paid anything. So the majority of my budgets in those years were around my rates were around sort of 400 a day for a music video or something. Obviously short films, absolutely not, like nothing, like literally 0. With short films, often when they offer me a rate, it's like national minimum wage. And so what's that, like 95 quid or something like that, like over 3 days, 300 quid in my pocket. Okay. Or I could put £300 back on the screen, and then this short film will look a million times better. And then long term will get me more money than the initial 300 quid. So sometimes I like to reinvest it back that way.
Yeah.
Commercials, there's an APA, what they called, advertising something association,
production association.
Yeah. So the APA have released and BEC2 have released some kind of rate cards on where things should be. So for a commercial, I think the minimum APA rate should be like 735 a day, and the minimum guideline is between 735 and 1200. But obviously, if you're like Emmanuel Lubezki shooting it, you're going to be paid more than 1200 a day, you know? So
yeah,
that's the sort of minimum guideline. So for commercials, I tend to go by that. But even then commercials, before I had an agent, like all the commercials I shot were not done at APA rate. Because they just either they didn't have the budget, or they knew that they could get around not paying me the full budget because I didn't have an agent. I don't know what it was. Yeah, that's how I set my rate. Now my agent will set my rate. But even then, it's like, if there's a project that comes in and the rate that all they have for me, in all honesty, is like £200. If it's a project I really want to do, and if my agent thinks it's good for me to do it, they're not going to be like, absolutely not, she does not work for less than that. Like, that, you know, they're going to kind of collaborate with me on it, ask me if that's okay with me and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Cool. Let's do some of the NFTS ones. So Sarah Antelia, sorry, I think that's right, says, I've been thinking of applying for the producing program. What is it like? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I did the cinematography program, but the producing program seems very thorough. It's a very good program to apply to and to do. Like they really put you through your paces. You get to do all kinds of stuff. You do an animation as well. You do short films. You can do a documentary if you want. They teach you about all the budgeting and the territories and all these things that might be difficult to learn on your own. And it's really good for networking as well, because they sort of hook you up with, I think they give you like mentors or something in the industry, or at least they have like days where amazing seasoned producers come in and talk to you, so you can always pick their brains. So yeah, definitely anyone thinking of applying to any of the NFTS courses, you might as well, because you know, I almost didn't apply, and because I was convinced I wouldn't get in, but let them decide that you're not ready or whatever. Like, you should all apply if you want to, and we'll go to the open day or whatever. But it's a really good program, really good.
Also, Tom Samuel asks, did you do the Bachelor, and how long did you go to film school? Because you were dividing it up, weren't you?
The NFTS doesn't have a Bachelor as far as I'm aware. I think it's just the Masters. They do have some like diploma courses that are 1 year, but they're not in cinematography, they're in other things. My Bachelor was in History of Art and English, so nothing to do with film. And then LFS was a master's course. It was filmmaking, so you study a bit of everything. So I did a bit of production design, I did a bit of editing, directing, all of it. That's 2 years. Because you can't specialize at the LFS, it did feel more like an undergrad. If that's what you're looking for, like, you can go there with absolutely zero experience and learn something and kind of get to somewhere a bit further along 2 years later. The NFTS course is a little bit more specialized. You're not expected to be like a master of your field by the time you enter, because they still obviously, want to be able to teach you something. But you don't have to be amazing. But I find that it does help if you know a little bit, because there's so much information that's thrown at you, even just in the first week, that if you're starting literally from scratch, like, you're just going to be playing catch up with yourself a lot. So it's nice if you can kind of, hear things and you can translate them in your head and you know what that means, like terminology, or if you've used certain equipment, but it's not compulsory.
Cool. Also, James Lahaye, any tips for making your application stand out? Did you apply more than once? I'm taking a stab at getting in this year.
I only applied once. I was very fortunate. I applied once and I got in on my first time. There were a couple of people in my class that it was their second or third application. There's no shame in having to apply more than once. Like, sometimes it's not even about you or your film or anything. It's just about, like, they don't think that, like, the people that they're sure they want to get in, that maybe they don't feel the dynamics would work, or maybe they feel like you need a bit more experience in the outside world or whatever. How to make your profile stand out? I don't know, honestly. I mean, you should submit a piece of work that you feel proud of. And I think if you're passionate about, I'm assuming he wants to apply to the cinematography course. If you're passionate about cinematography and you're passionate about that this is the long game for you, not just like a short-term thing that you're going to do for 2 years because it's cool, but this is something that you're like prepared to struggle through, and you're prepared to, go through the hardship of, even when there's no success coming for months and months, if you still want to do it, that will come through your application, I think. And just showcase your passion, and I think then you'll be better off, maybe.
Cool.
I hope that helps. Or just contact me and we can chat. I mean, happy to do that.
You're so generous. I was just wondering as well, because you wanted to talk a little bit about, I know we're running at an hour now, but
Shit, really?
I'd like to hear a bit about, I know, right? The short film Rise, and working with an intimacy coordinator.
So Rise,
I've only seen the stills from that. So
yeah. I've been pestering Hannah, the director, to cut a trailer for ages, but she hasn't got around to it. Rise came to me in January or something of last year. We didn't actually end up shooting it until August bank holiday. And basically, Rise is about an 18-year-old girl who's sort of, you finish your A-levels and you want to go traveling with your mates. And so they all go to Spain and they have like a laugh and they get drunk every day. And then one night, Ash, the lead character, is in bed, party going on downstairs, and one of her male friends gets into bed with her and is drunkenly like dry humping her basically without her consent. And what drew me to this project is this has happened to me a bunch of times. I'm sure it's happened to the majority of women out there. And so it was really important for me to do this project because there's such a weird gray area around this, because when this happens to you yourself, you don't want to admit to yourself that you're the victim of sexual assault or anything like that. And it's so easy to just brush it off and be like, oh, but it's not like he actually did anything. Like he was just, he was just drunk, or like there's so many excuses that can be palmed off. And it can also be difficult to talk about with your friends, because no friendship group ever wants to be broken up over something like this. And especially if no one around you, if everyone's like, oh, but did he actually touch you in any of your like primary erogenous zones? No. Okay, well then what's the big deal? And I wanted to do this film because it is a big deal and it shouldn't happen. And Hannah, the director, felt the same way. Our producers felt the same way. But what was really important was that our actor be comfortable. So basically, the film starts with the assault, and then it follows our main character. Like a couple months later, she's back home in England, and she's kind of withdrawn. She's withdrawn from herself. She's withdrawn from her social circle and from her own body. She can't bear to touch herself, look at herself, shower, anything like that. And the way she kind of refines this connection is through masturbation. And we never showed like full on, full frontal anything. It was all kind of suggested. But our actor needed to feel comfortable in front of the camera. So Hannah worked really closely with a couple of intimacy coordinators and with the actor to get the actor to a point of comfort. And what that meant for me in my workflow was that when the actor came on set on that day, there was no awkwardness. There was no like, oh, you have to avoid this or whatever. They had already between them workshopped such a fantastic dynamic between them. And they'd kind of explored certain boundaries that the actor felt comfortable or uncomfortable with or whatever. So everything that was happening on the set was like free access for me. So I could shoot anything with the actor feeling comfortable. And it was something that I'd always imagined that the intimacy coordinator wasn't actually on set, but I'd always imagined that having an intimacy coordinator kind of step in to your shot choice would restrict me, because it'd be like, oh, you cannot show this, you must not, that's disrespectful. None of that happened at all. It was all very very open, and because they'd workshopped the whole thing in such a detailed and sensual way, it was beautiful for me to just roam around with my camera and just capture little moments like this back of the neck with the light. Like all those things were details that I could now look out for because all the other stuff had been taken care of almost. So it was really good. And the lighting,
stills look really beautiful.
Thank you. The lighting guys I worked with, they're called Reflectric, and it was my first time working with them. I'd seen a demonstration when I was at a camera rental house earlier in the year, and basically they use one massive light called a PB70, which is like a 1.2K HMI, and they blast that through a reflector, like almost like a mirror, I suppose. And then the quality, because the light is like a parabolic parallel beam light, it sort of, when it's reflected like that, it almost behaves more like sunlight. And like the shadows are so crisp. The quality of light is so naturalistic. And more importantly, for the subject matter that we were working with, they're not like in the way. They're not, you don't have stands and shit everywhere. You don't have flags in that actor's eye line. You just have like a couple of little tiny like mirror-like things called reflectors, and they come in different hardness levels. So I think the number 1 is almost like a full-on mirror. And then the number 4 is closer to using like a polyboard or something a bit softer. And it totally changed my way of thinking, because I was like, oh, maybe we can put a diffusion frame here. And they were like, we don't need to. We can just put the number 3 reflector on. And I was like, fuck. And like the quality of the light was so good, because sometimes when if you're working with a budget and you don't have either the money or the permissions on set or on the street or whatever to set up like a big crane with like a 20K on it, taking up the whole fucking road, you have to work compactly. And this reflector was like literally right up close to the window like that. And so we tented out some of the window to prevent the natural light coming in. And then we put this #1 reflector up. And then we were able to just gel it or swap it out really easily. And it was fantastic. Like the quality of light was amazing. And these guys, Jono and Jason at Reflectric, are incredible. They were so respectful. I didn't have to have anyone in the room with me. It was just me, the AC, sound, and the director. I didn't have to have like a spark holding anything. You know what I mean? It was like, it was brilliant. So I would definitely work with them if you can.
No, I can't wait to see it, because I guess I saw it was meant to be on the festival circuit.
Yeah.
Maybe digital circuit needs to come about, because I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
Also, do you have this might sound really cheesy, but I think it's really relevant, like advice for other female cinematographers? Because I guess it's kind of known as being a bit of a boys' club. But how have you found that as your experience?
I have never found directly, I've never found it to be negative, because I think people are often too clever to be really sexist to your face or really racist to your face. I'm sure that I have lost out on work because of it, because I know for a fact, for example, I know that I've been contacted by directors with a treatment or a brief. Let's say it's a music video and it's a night shoot, right? And the director really wants to work with me, but then the production company say, oh, yeah, I mean, we like her, but she's never done a night shoot, so let's not. And then they end up hiring some guy inevitably, who's also never done a night shoot. So that's happened a bunch. There's not much you can do about it, really. Like, try not to let it bother you, I suppose. Embrace the fact that you're a woman and that you have access to different spaces and different emotional registers, and we're all different. Even woman to woman, we're different. So like, embrace the sort of you-ness of yourself, and just keep pushing and using it to your advantage. I mean, at the moment, we're very lucky. Like, the industry has sort of noticed that things are a bit up in the air and a bit shit in terms of representation, and so they're really making an effort. And so, in a way, I'm kind of benefiting from it's like positive discrimination in a way. But then that leads to its own anxieties, where it's like, did you just hire me because I'm a woman, or because I'm not white, or because because I tick these two boxes, or did you hire me because you actually like my work? And it has led to like nights of severe anxiety. Like, why are you actually hiring me? Is it just to make yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, or do you actually like my work? And that's been difficult. So I guess try not to like allow that anxiety to take over, and try to trust that if people are hiring you, it's because they like you. And don't try and like repress your femininity or anything, because what makes you unique, or what makes you different, is what will make you stand out in a way.
Yeah. Cool. I think we're waiting for a couple more questions. Sure. But while we do that, do you want to tell me what you were going to say about the 3 stages in a DOP's career?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Here we go. Buckle up, guys. So
it's epiphany time.
Breathe. Okay. So I lived in Japan, and when I moved to Japan, I didn't know the language, basically, and I'd had like 8 or 9 months heads up that I was going to be moving there. So I'd been studying a little bit, like little bits of words here and there. But then I got there, and it was a wall. It was sound, noise. I couldn't. And basically what it was is I couldn't distinguish between the gaps between the words. So once you can distinguish the gaps between the words, if you're learning a language, you can then go home and look up that word, and then that's now another word in your arsenal. And little by little, you broaden that out. It's very, very similar to cinematography. So when you learn a language, you're learning a language so that you can express yourself in that language. And I wanted to do cinematography because I wanted to express myself visually. And I think a lot of people that enter this career want to do that. And it's very, very difficult to start. And what I realized over the last lockdown, over this last few months, is I was beating myself up over, oh, you've done this random animation and this random short film and then this random music video, and they don't look alike. And like, why the fuck did you do all of those things? Like, you're an idiot. But I wasn't an idiot. There was a method and a process that I didn't realize. And that is when you first start out as a DOP or learning a language, you start off in this stage that's called what. And what is like, what the fuck is this? What is this word? What is this light? I don't know what anything is. And you're freaking out. And basically your cinematographic vocabulary, as it were, is very limited and very basic and very random. Like, if you're learning a language, it will be like apple, ball, kitchen, mother. And it's like, none of these things have anything to do with each other. And you learn like a couple of very basic sort of sentence structures and essentially when I started out, maybe the first like year and a half that I was in this like what stage, all I was learning to do was insert this concept into this pre-existing structure that I knew. So, okay, this is a short film about a girl who's depressed. And now I've got a music video about an old lady running a marathon, let's say. That neither of those things have happened. But even though they're two totally different subject matters, I was almost treating them the same way because I was just trying to get to grips with the vocabulary of cinematography. And then the next stage is how. And how is when you've got to grips with like the basics. You understand like how this light works, how that camera works. You don't have to you're not on set now desperately just trying to not look stupid. You now know what you're doing. And so now you're trying to kind of figure out how to manipulate that to make you look good in a way. For me, at least me personally, the way this manifested was, okay, so I'm now seeing all these like amazing projects on Instagram or on promo news or whatever. I want my stuff to look like that. How do I do that? And so there was a lot of imitation and a lot of external representation that wasn't about me. And like language wise, that would be the equivalent of like, I don't know, yesterday I went shopping, today I'm watching a movie. And it's still quite basic, but you're starting to introduce a little bit of complexity, but you're still not expressing yourself. You're still very much expressing things that are external to you. And then the next stage is the why stage. And I feel like I entered this stage right before I filmed my graduation film. And this is now where you start to think, why am I making these choices? Like, I know what light to use. I know how to use that light, but why the fuck am I using that light instead of that light? And you start to kind of question yourself and you start to question your shot choices. And for me, this is like this is what I always wanted to get to with learning Japanese. Was I didn't want to just be like, this is sushi. I like sushi. I wanted to like go to a party and I wanted to meet people and talk about how like, the reason I'm wearing this colored dress is because this color reminds me of like my childhood bedroom, and my favorite memories of my mom like sneaking in the morning and opening the curtains and me peeking out and looking at her and everything is quiet, like you want to start to express things that are like inside of you. And so that is kind of the why stage. That's like the third stage, and that stage will last like the rest of my life, rest of any DOP's life. And that's where, maybe a few years later, like maybe in 2025, I'll learn how to do the cinematographic equivalent of like puns or idioms or similes, or, you know, and like you've always got stuff to add to your bow. But that it comes from a deeper place. And one thing that I've really realized is that I did not love my process at all. I hated my process. I was always like looking to jump ahead to the next project, next level, next budget level. And I wasn't at all like trying to enjoy where I was and workshop where I was and experiment within my range, you know? And I really regret that. And so if there are any DOPs listening who are sort of starting out, like one advice I would give is don't look too far ahead and like try and catapult yourself over there. Like make the best of what you have and make use of that, because it's so important to getting you to the next stage. Like when you learn a language, it might seem pointless to learn certain things, and like sometimes learning like grammar declensions or whatever, it's boring and it feels stupid. It's like, I don't want to do this. I just want to go out there and like have a full-blown conversation with someone, but you can't. You have to like be really methodical about your process. And so I'm now really happy that I've shot all this like completely random selection of work that seemingly doesn't fit together in any way, because that's all the vocabulary I've learned. And that means that, like, you know, over lockdown, I've been kind of developing a few passion projects with directors and like really thinking about where I want to take my career. And it's thanks to all these projects, all these random lenses and lights and shit that I've just cobbled together and used on so many different things that I'm able to like think in that way now. I'm able to think of stuff that, I don't know, is a bit above where I was before. So that's my rant over.
I think that was really really inspiring.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. It was just, it was such like, I was literally on the phone to my boyfriend. I was crying for an hour. I was on the phone to one of my close friends, Leon, not crying, but internally crying. And it was only through talking to all these people. I spoke with Ashley Barron. I spoke with Dumas Haddad. I spoke with Olan Koladi. I spoke with a bunch of people. And I came to a position where I can kind of accept myself and where I am and, you know, all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm like excited about the future now, rather than like, oh, fuck, I've messed it up. I had this opportunity and I fucked it. Like, I'm now really excited for it. So,
yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's really inspirational. Thank you. I think we haven't got any more questions.
There's one question. How old is Nathalie? I'm 34.
And proud of that.
And proud of it. And I started filmmaking when I was 28. And at 28, I was a full noob. I knew nothing. I'd done some like street photography with my stills camera, but most of it was shit anyway. So, yeah.
It's noob, not noob, for everybody.
Yes.
Sorry? Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, cool. I think we're going to call it there for today. But please remember to like and subscribe to our channel and follow Nathalie. If you think of any other questions, slide into her DMs. That's how we do things now. And thank you, Nathalie, for joining us today and being so generous with your inspiring TED Talk. And we'll be back tomorrow talking to hair and makeup artist Robin Rowan. So catch you then. Thanks, everybody. We're going to go now. Bye. See you. Bye.